the Great Northwoods to the Rockbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Today on Good Morning Maine, divers have been called in to join the search for two missing fishermen off the coast of Maine.
Plus, Maine joins a lawsuit to challenge President Trump's order to end birthright citizenship.
And a women's club in Winterport is working to make life better in their community. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Emma Smith.
And I'm Craig Colson. Thank you for joining us. We'll have those stories and a lot more coming up, including a whole segment on some of the new things dealing with the new administration in Washington and the shock waves that's creating around the nation. Those stories are coming up. But first, to check of that forecast, another really icy start to the day today. Minus 13 when I headed into work this morning. Things are now cooling, warming up a little. I can't see the temperature thing anymore. I think it was up to around maybe minus 7 the last I checked. So it's not going to be a warm day at all. We will see some sunshine though, so that'll at least make it look a little warmer out there.
I know. That's the deceiving part.
Yeah.
Here's Devin Biggs with that forecast.
And thank you very much, Craig and Emma. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. A cold start this morning with temperatures falling well below zero for all of us. So definitely making sure we need to bundle up as we venture out this morning. Look at Clayton Lake, 24 below for the actual air temperature this morning. That's why they're under cold weather advisories until 10 a.m. this morning. A freezing spray advisory will also drop at 10 a.m. this morning as well along the coast. Meanwhile, quiet on land for the moment. We'll see a good amount of sunshine for today, although some more clouds will develop as we head towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern states tracking off to the east now. It will soon be out of here very soon along the southern coast. But meanwhile, for us, the rest of the Northeast rather quiet, a little bit of lake effect still developing, and that's pretty much about it at this moment in time. So we'll be under a partly cloudy sky for us today. We'll clear out for a bit, but more clouds on the way, especially as we head towards Thursday morning. You might get a quick wind gust reaching up to 15 miles per hour today. That will calm down later on tonight, but then tomorrow, some gusts again could reach up to around 15 miles per hour at times. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a lot of sunshine, a few clouds for the afternoon with temperatures in the teens. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
Thank you, Devin. We'll have a look at that full 5-day a little later on. Well, first thing this morning, divers are expected to descend into the icy waters off of Trescott today. That's where it's suspected that two fishermen vanished when their scallop boat ran into foul weather over the weekend. Chester Barrett and his son Aaron were traveling from Cobscook Bay to Addison Saturday morning when they hit rough seas and announced they were taking shelter in Cutler. But that's the last they were heard from. A massive search has been going on along the coast since that time, and some fellow fishermen believe they've found the location of the boat in the waters near Moose Cove. According to the Bangor Daily, divers have been hired to search that area today with hopes of recovering the two missing fishermen. A GoFundMe page has also been set up to help their family.
Meanwhile, Thompson police say two officers shot and tased an armed man along Route 196 yesterday. Police say dispatchers got a call from 33-year-old Joseph Mendez, who thanked them for their service and said that they would soon be finding him. Police tracked him to the Mary Meeting Bridge yesterday morning, where they say he was holding a machete. Police say Mendez ignored orders to drop his weapon and then charged toward the officers. They shot him and say that when he continued to resist arrest, they had to tase him as well. He was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. Officers Matthew Bowers and Fraser Vachon are now on administrative leave, which is standard procedure as the Attorney General's office investigates the use of deadly force. Police say they are also investigating criminal charges against Mendez.
A Waterville man is facing aggravated drug trafficking charges after officers searched his apartment. According to the Waterville Police Department, their officers, along with Somerset County Sheriff's detectives, arrested Jonathan Petgrave after a search warrant was executed at 11 College Avenue, apartment 3. During their search of the residence, Waterville police say detectives located approximately 33 grams of cocaine base and approximately 6 grams of fentanyl. In 2021, Petgrave was convicted of aggravated trafficking of scheduled drugs and was sentenced to 58 months in prison. Because of his prior conviction, Petgrave's 2 new aggravated trafficking charges are both counted as Class A crimes.
The Bangor Police Department continues to seek information about a man they believe is responsible for 3 armed robberies over the past couple of weeks. This is video of the suspect, who is described as a white male between 5 foot 8 inches tall and 6 foot 2. He weighs between 250 and 300 pounds and was last seen wearing a black mask, gray North Face sweatshirt, and with a possible black rain jacket underneath, as well as black pants, brown work boots, and gray gloves with possible texture on the palms. According to the public information officer, Sergeant Jason McCambly, the suspect robbed the Circle K at Broadway and Griffin Road back on January 13th. And the same suspect is also believed to have robbed the Big Apple convenience store on State Street and the same Circle K again on January 19th.
So far, the people, even though they've been pretty terrified, they have provided really, really good information for us, and we're just hoping for that one little break so we can go get the person who did it.
Well, if you have any information, you can contact the Bangor Police Department at 947-7384. You can also leave anonymous tips there as well.
The trial for a Milford man accused of trying to kill his girlfriend in May of 2023 is underway. At the Penobscot County Superior Court, jurors heard opening statements and then testimony from several witnesses. Our Alex Schley was in court and has more.
Day one in the attempted murder trial of Devon Carter included opening statements and 6 witnesses who took the stand and testified. Carter is on trial for aggravated attempted murder. Prosecutors say he allegedly hit his then-girlfriend with a hammer multiple times. The Milford man is facing multiple other charges, including elevated aggravated assault, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. During opening arguments, Carter's defense attorney, Zachary Frey, told jurors that Carter admitted to attacking the woman, but did not take her life or attempt to take her life.
One of the reasons we know this, as you'll come to learn, is because Mr. Carter, while under zero obligation to do so, and before he was even charged with a crime, did the right thing and told the detectives what he'd done.
Prosecutors, however, argue Carter's actions do meet the criteria to charge him with aggravated attempted murder, as well as the other charges he is currently facing.
For purposes of this case, the big difference between attempted murder and assault is intent. Attempted murder requires the intent to commit the crime of murder.
The prosecution's first 6 witnesses took the stand Tuesday, including the doctors who treated the victim, identified as Tara. They described the severity of her injuries, including shards of her skull splintering and becoming lodged in her eye. Jurors also heard from State Trooper Stephen Day, who assisted in apprehending Carter. The trial is set to resume Wednesday morning. In Bangor, I'm Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
All right, the time now is 8:08. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, Maine is among the states challenging President Donald Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship in the United States. We'll have reactions.
But first, another check of that weather forecast. A real cold day ahead today. Today will be partly cloudy with highs only reaching around 16 degrees. Increasing clouds tonight with lows dropping down to around 1. It's a bit warmer night tonight. Tomorrow, a slight chance of snow with highs around 24. We'll be right back.
Arcade has expanded, and we have dozens of new games to play. We have prize machines, including an entire section dedicated to your favorite modern games. We have games from the 80s and games from the 90s. Plus, we have the largest selection of indie arcade games in the country, along with 9-hole blacklight mini golf. We also have a brand new birthday party room. Hey, we have it all. Come on up to Orono and experience one of the most unique family entertainment centers in Maine.
We've got an all-new game with a new way to play. It's Cash Pop from the Maine Lottery. You just pick one number from 1 to 15. If your number's drawn, you win. Just like that, with cash prizes up to $2,500 and 5 drawings every day. You gotta make it pop with Cash Pop.
My dad got shoved by an employee at the nursing home and broke his hip. When I asked management about it, they tried to cover it up and said it was an accident.
If a serious injury has happened at a nursing home that's brought up cause for concern, call the 2s right now.
Our attorney at Lowry and Associates investigated and found out the truth. The nursing home had to take responsibility for what happened to my dad.
If you suspect nursing home abuse or neglect, we're your go-to lawyers.
Daytona. This is that moment. If he could pull this off, this is what this vision, the dream's all about.
Out here in Bobby Allison takes command. Jeff Gordon looking for the checkered flag.
Earnhardt to the inside. Here comes Bono.
Here they come to line.
Welcome back to Good Morning Maine. Legal challenges to President Donald Trump's executive actions are growing. At least 22 states now suing to block his attempt to end birthright citizenship. Trump is defending his move to pardon defendants from the January 6th attack as well, saying they already served a long period of time. ABC's Perry Russum is in Washington with more.
This morning, President Trump defending his pardons for the more than 1,500 defendants from the January 6th attack at the Capitol, including those who attacked officers.
These people have already served years in prison, and they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison.
Some Republican lawmakers apparently caught off guard.
It was surprising to me that it was a blanket pardon.
Others supporting the move, citing a controversial pardon issued by former President Biden.
He gave a pardon to Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier killed 2 FBI agents.
This morning, Trump placing government diversity, equity, and inclusion workers on leave as he shuts down their offices and programs. On immigration, one of Trump's executive orders will face its first legal test tomorrow.
This is plainly illegal, plainly contrary to our Constitution.
A judge in Seattle will consider a temporary restraining order against Trump's directive ending birthright citizenship, a guarantee under the 14th Amendment declaring anyone born on U.S. soil an American citizen. In Washington, an Episcopal Church bishop echoing a letter released by its leadership Tuesday, criticizing Trump at the National Prayer Service for his stances on immigration and LGBTQ rights.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives.
This morning, Trump calls the bishop a radical left, hardline Trump hater. He says her statements were inappropriate, and he wants an apology. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
Some of President Donald Trump's executive orders are already facing multiple lawsuits, including his executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship. Maine has joined those who are challenging that order. Maine Attorney General Aaron Frey announced he is joining attorney generals from 17 other states in a lawsuit filed in Massachusetts federal court to block the order. Frey said in a statement, quote, "It was anticipated that the president would issue this unconstitutional block on citizenship, but that does not make it any less disappointing. The election did not change the Constitution, and legal action is required to remind the president that his oath is to uphold that sacred document, not rewrite it," end quote. This comes on the heels of another lawsuit from the Maine ACLU and other organizations filed Monday night in New Hampshire federal court. The ACLU called the executive order unconstitutional and racist.
It is codified in the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, which specifically provides for birthright citizenship.
Yesterday, on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, President Trump issued a clearly unconstitutional order, and it's also a transparently racist attempt to redefine who is a part of our community and who is entitled to equal protection and equal rights.
Both lawmakers ask federal judges to issue an injunction stopping the order from being implemented while the cases make their way through court. If neither judge grants the injunction, the order will go into effect 30 days after it was signed.
Well, many of the executive orders President Trump signed will have effects at the state level here in Maine. So what do lawmakers think so far? Our Augusta reporter Corey Bouchard asked them.
Maine Republican leadership was notably absent from both chambers on Tuesday, having attended President Donald Trump's inauguration in Washington, D.C. Lawmakers in Augusta had mixed feelings about Trump's return to the White House.
It's something that is hopefully going to make America great again.
I think it's important to give the president time and his administration some time and to see where everything goes.
President Trump signed an avalanche of executive orders just hours after taking office, some of which either directly or indirectly impact the citizens and state of Maine. Lawmakers say despite what happens in D.C., they're always looking out for the best interest of the state in Augusta.
Well, I've heard from a few people that they're scared about some of these announcements that have been made. I want to say everyone still has their civil rights, and I just want to say that we here in the Maine legislature, we care about all Maine people. We want to make sure that they're protected.
I can't remember all of them. There are too many to count, but I can tell you that the ones that he highlighted were very beneficial to what he's trying to do, and that is kind of roll back some of the restrictions that have been put on Americans.
Well, I'm not sure some of them are going to hold up legally, but we'll have to let the courts make those decisions. But like I said, we have a ways to go to see where things are going to land.
With some of the executive orders, I am most excited about the offshore wind pause to kind of get some more ideas about what that's really doing to the environment. The cost of that we know is very expensive, so if there are other alternatives without harming that natural environment, I'm looking forward to hearing how that goes.
At the State House, I'm Corey Bouchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
In other news, moving on now, Senator Susan Collins voiced strong opposition to some of the pardons issued by President Donald Trump, specifically those related to January 6th rioters. She said in a statement, quote, "While I believe some Americans were caught up in the crowd on January 6th and may well deserve the clemency President Trump has given, there is a great difference between violent crimes and nonviolent crimes. I do not support pardons given to people who engaged in violence on January 6th, including assaulting police officers or breaking windows to get into the Capitol, for example," end quote. Senator Collins also voiced opposition to some of the pardons issued by President Biden in the final hours of his presidency, including to members of his family. She said it's been a, quote, "terrible week for our justice system," and stressed that violence must not be tolerated.
Meanwhile, another controversial order is also in the spotlight this morning as Equality Maine says it's not surprised President Trump targeted the LGBTQ+ community in one of his executive orders signed on Monday.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Now, the president calls the two genders, quote, biological reality. He also is ending a Biden-era Option X on federal paperwork. The director of Equality Maine says putting into practice some of the executive orders will be harder than the Trump administration thinks. She says laws will have to be changed and Trump will have to go around the Supreme Court on things related to employment. She also says attacking LGBTQ rights wasn't a top priority for voters.
Most voters here in Maine and across the country, their number one issue was the economy, was the price of goods, the price of heating oil. This was not. This was actually at the bottom of the list, was attacking LGBTQ people. So this is disheartening for us to have a president who's supposed to bring the country together to start his tenure singling out different types of community members.
Equality Maine says it will be working to reassure the LGBTQ community in Maine that it has plenty of support from elected officials here in the state.
All right, the time now is 8:19. After the break, can you imagine a place with no snowplows and shovels being few and far between? Well, that place is the Gulf Coast, and this morning they're digging out following an unprecedented snowstorm.
We'll take you there, plus we'll have your local forecast coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Hammond Lumber Company has been a trusted partner of professional contractors, do-it-yourselfers, and homeowners for generations. It's the level of trust that Hammond Lumber has earned by providing an extensive selection of products and materials from industry-leading suppliers, with guidance and support through every stage of any project, including delivery of materials throughout Maine and New Hampshire. Hammond Lumber Company is, has been, and will always be your building project partner.
Your favorite restaurants for half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
The Legacy Sandwich, where you can find quality, homemade sandwiches that are made to order. When it comes to food, we take it seriously. That's why we serve shredded chicken and turkey on our sandwiches. Voted Bangor's best deli sandwich shop. It's not just a sandwich, it's a legacy.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7.
Why should your new floor come from Carpet One? Because we're passionate about the spaces our neighbors call home. We're part of your community, and we're also part of the world's largest cooperative of independently owned and operated flooring stores. So you can be sure you'll get great selection and outstanding value with every installation. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, tile, or luxury vinyl, our experts take the guesswork out of choosing the right floor. We're your local Carpet One Floor and Home, the one store for your perfect floor.
It's the Furniture Gallery's anniversary sale. Celebrate with us and save big. Queen mattresses as low as $198. Want to recline? Recliners start at just $298. Or upgrade to a power recliner for just $398. Reclining sofa and recliner, just $998. The Furniture Gallery anniversary prices don't stop there. Refresh your living room. Sofas starting at just $448. Complete your bedroom, 5-piece set for only $898. Support our main family-owned business and save money. The Furniture Gallery.
Now to that winter storm, described as a once-in-a-lifetime event. A winter wonderland in places like Houston, New Orleans, and Pensacola, Florida. And now the brutal cold moves in.
ABC's Andrew Dimpert has more.
This morning, people on the Gulf Coast digging out after a winter storm that set an all-time record. Louisiana sending out its first ever blizzard warnings.
We've never seen anything like this. I mean, it's that simple.
New Orleans shattering its one-day snowfall record with more than 8 inches, the French Quarter buried in snow, and chaos on the roads. Authorities forced to shut down dozens of highways.
The challenge I think we're going to face is the bridges right now are acting like big ice trays.
In Houston, police urging people to stay off the roads. The city, which does not own a single snowplow, called up trucks and supplies from as far as Wisconsin to make the roads passable.
It definitely doesn't look right when you're plowing snow next to a palm tree. Yeah, it's odd. You see people shoveling their driveway with like the floor mat of their car.
The unusually cold weather spreading to roughly 80% of the country. Charlotte waking up to 17 degrees this morning, 14 in Jackson, Mississippi. Farther north, wind chills below zero in many areas. In New York City, parts of the Hudson River frozen. But back in Houston, a little fun. Police and firefighters taking a break for a snowball fight. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
Got to go with it. I have friends who live down in Florida now, and they were posting yesterday. They were getting winter weather advisories and cold weather advisories. It was going to be down around 39 where he lives. Yeah. It's a different world down there. Things come to a stop when you get this kind of winter weather.
I mean, yeah, if you don't have a snow shovel or a snow plow, you can't really do much.
Have to wait until it thaws out and melts. Imagine, so some people probably pick this week to go down to Florida just to escape the cold or something. I feel bad for them.
I feel awful.
Yeah. What are you going to do, though?
Pick South Florida next time.
Yeah.
Well, the time now is 8:23.
Let's get a full look at our weather forecast.
All righty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. Cold weather advisories up across the northern parts of the state until 10 a.m. this morning. Some cold temperatures being observed there. At the same time, a freezing spray advisory along the coast will be expiring at 10 a.m. this morning as well. Wave heights not too bad at around 2 to 3 feet according to the buoys, and only 5 feet farther out towards sea at this moment in time. Meanwhile, as we move forward this morning, we're pretty clear. Most of the clouds are over the ocean. We'll have a lot of sunshine to start things off. Some clouds will be developing as we head towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern parts of the state tracking off towards the east now, and will soon be out of the southern states very soon. The rest of the country, a little bit of snow across parts of the Midwest this morning, but for us, again, the rest of the Northeast looking looking rather quiet, just a little bit of lake effect snow developing in a few spots this morning. And again, here's the snow across parts of the Midwest. But for us today, we will be under a partly cloudy sky with those clouds clearing out of here later on tonight for a while. But then once we move forward, the clouds will be increasing again as we head towards Thursday morning. And then mostly cloudy throughout the day Thursday, a slight chance for snow for a few of us, but overall nothing too ridiculous moving forward. The clouds will start to break up as we head towards Thursday night and up parts of Friday morning, although they may linger for a few of us too early Friday morning. Otherwise, some gusty winds could reach up to about 15 miles per hour today, calming down later on tonight. And then once we head towards tomorrow, a few gusts up to 15 miles per hour cannot be ruled out again as we head towards your Thursday. Meanwhile, again, a cold start this morning. Got down to 24 below in Clayton Lake this morning. The rest of us getting close to 10 below at times, but overall temperatures will start to moderate for a few of us today with around 16 degrees for that high temperature, which is below the average high of 27. But we will start to moderate into the 20s and even 30s coming up over the next several days. Your forecast coming up, 16 degrees, partly cloudy, wind chills near 10 below, and the northwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts cannot be ruled out. For tonight, 1 degree, increasing clouds overnight with the wind overall looking nice and calm. And then moving ahead towards tomorrow, 24 degrees, mostly cloudy, a slight chance for snow, and a southwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. A few higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Partly cloudy for your Friday with highs in the mid-20s. Mid-20s again for your Saturday under a mostly sunny sky, and snow showers for your Sunday with highs in the low 30s.
Looking to get stronger? This is your year. Join Planet Fitness today for just $1 down and save.
We're stepping it up.
We're not slowing down.
We're gonna feel this tomorrow.
I'm doing it my way, on my time. We're just gonna keep showing up. Showing up.
Showing up. You coming?
Join the club today. Save $28 or more when you join for just $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 31st. Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet.
Did he lose his shirt?
I have never seen anybody lose their shirt.
I guess deny and delay didn't work today. Now look at him.
Who's the law firm?
The law offices of Joe Bornstein.
If you've been injured in an accident, call Joe. The law offices of Joe Bornstein. Maine lawyers working for Maine people.
Tell the insurance company you mean business.
A new year and a new adventure with the perfect Chevy to take you anywhere. With pure power unleashed and future-forward technology. Because every mile matters and every path leads to new possibilities. Qualified Chevy lessees can get this 2025 Silverado for around $409 a month. Or current Chevy owners can get $5,000 total cash allowance.
Rowell's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover-Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance. Browse our inventory online or in person. Whether it's a car, truck, or SUV, we can put you in the vehicle that is right for you. Sales, service, and parts. Rowell's Garage. Doing business the right way every day.
Tragedy under investigation at a major ski resort overseas. At least 76 people are confirmed dead, with children expected to be among the victims. ABC's Rhiannon Alley has the story.
A horrifying scene at this popular ski resort in northwestern Turkey. Flames breaking out in the middle of the night, trapping hundreds of people in their rooms. Most people were sleeping when the fire started, apparently in a restaurant, around 3:30 a.m. Thick smoke slowing their escape. Survivors saying they never heard any fire alarms and could not find the fire escapes. Some seen here trying to escape using ropes made out of bed sheets. At least 2 people were killed, jumping from the building. One father heard yelling, "I will throw my child or he will burn." This man saying the people on the upper floors were screaming. Some were trying to jump out. Some had children inside. 9 people, including the hotel owner, have now been detained as part of the investigation. Officials say the hotel did pass fire inspections just last year. Little comfort for the families of the dozens who did not survive. Turkey declaring today a national day of mourning. Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
Well, meanwhile, the European Union expresses concern over the U.S. decision to leave the World Health Organization. President Trump announced the withdrawal on Monday, saying the Global Health Agency had mishandled the COVID-19 pandemic and other international crises around the world. The EU's executive branch addressed its concerns at a news conference on Tuesday in Brussels, noting the WHO should be reformed.
If we want to be resilient to the global health threats, we need to have a global cooperation in the health area. We see with concerns the announcement to withdraw from the WHO organization by the United States, and we trust that the US administration will consider all this ahead of the formal withdrawal.
Well, the United States is the WHO's biggest financer, contributing between $160 and $815 million every year over the last decade. The withdrawal process is expected to take up to a year.
Palestinians were seen running after aid trucks, delivering more supplies to Gaza on Wednesday, as the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas entered its 4th day. The truce deal requires at least 600 truckloads of aid to be allowed into Gaza every day of the initial 6-week ceasefire, including 50 carrying fuel. Half of those trucks are supposed to go to Gaza's north, where experts have warned famine is imminent. The United Nations said on Tuesday that more than 2,400 trucks have entered the enclave since the start of the truce. According to the UN Director, Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, humanitarian priorities in Gaza include food assistance, opening bakeries, providing health care, restocking hospitals, repairing water networks, and bringing material to repair shelters, as well as reuniting families.
A scene of just desperate people there just trying to get some of the basics there.
It's a lot on their to-do list, and they have pretty much just been flattened. It's, Gaza is rubble.
Rebuild everything at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, coming up on the second half of the newscast, a local women's club is working to improve the community through connection and volunteerism. We'll hear their story.
That and more coming up on Good Morning Maine.
We can go into a room and have absolutely nothing in there, nothing on the windows, no color, no character, no tone to a room.
That's, I think, where we're strongest, is being able to help someone envision what's going to go in that window.
And we leave, it's totally transformed into something that the customer wants it to be. We've often been told we make a room look better just by leaving it.
A new year and a new adventure with the perfect Chevy to take you anywhere. With pure power unleashed and future-forward technology. Because every mile matters and every path leads to new possibilities.
Qualified Chevy lessees can get this 2025 Silverado for around $409 a month. Or current Chevy owners can get $5,000 total cash allowance.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. It's also Celebration of Life Day.
This holiday was originally instituted to celebrate the children in our lives, but it's come to signify all that's good about being alive. It's easy to forget sometimes how fortunate we are just to be here. This is a day to remember that the good usually outweighs the bad and to appreciate life's gifts. When I'm not doing well, and I've been having some bad days or some bad weeks or months even, I have to remind myself to come back to, okay, let's find some things to be grateful for and just focus really hard on those. That's not to mean that the other things you're going through aren't bad and frustrating, but it's just about focusing on what's good, because that's like the brain hack to being able to feel better.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and once you get into that train of mind, it kind of spreads through the rest of everything too.
Right.
You know, think about it. If you've got a roof over your head, you've got food to eat, if you got your health, family or friends, that kind of thing, you're pretty rich.
And it's not about shaming yourself and being like, oh, other people have it a lot worse. No, let's not go there, because that doesn't help us. Just think about what you are grateful for.
Yeah, I think it's human to always want more, always want better.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to remind yourself, hey, you're doing okay.
Yes.
You'll get to where you want to be eventually.
Totally.
All right. It's also National Grandpa's Day.
In Poland, though, right?
In Poland. It's a Polish holiday, but you can do it here, too.
Okay.
Celebrate your grandpa.
Yeah, there's a lot of Polish people in America.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you can always celebrate your grandpa.
Yeah. All right, moving on now. On this day in history, back in 1901, Britain's Queen Victoria died after reigning for nearly 64 years. Her son Edward was named as her successor. He, of course, stepped aside eventually, I believe. Was that how it went?
I forget.
Didn't he abdicate, and then his brother got it, and then his brother died, and then Queen Elizabeth.
I am not the one to ask about even the current
the monarchy
or history of the English monarchy.
Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah, anyway, we'll leave that for another day.
I'm not going to be helpful.
Yeah. In 1930, excavation work began for the Empire State Building in New York. At one time, it was the world's tallest building. 1973, the landmark Supreme Court decision, Roe v. Wade, that established a woman's legal right to abortion was issued in Washington. That would all change, of course, in 2022 when the High Court reversed that decision, declaring that constitutional right no longer exists. And in 1984, Apple introduced the Macintosh computer during an ad aired during the Super Bowl.
I didn't know it was during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, of course.
That makes sense.
Picked a good time to unveil it.
Yeah, right. In 1998, the man known as the Unabomber pleaded guilty to carrying out a series of mail bombings over 17 years. Ted Kaczynski was caught after a nationwide manhunt and was sentenced to 4 life sentences. He died in prison only a couple years ago in 2023. And in 2003, Hispanics were officially declared the largest minority group in the United States. Did you know that the category of being Hispanic was created for the U.S. Census?
Really?
So it's not necessarily some people might not identify as that way, but it was just it's like a blanket statement for people who speak Spanish.
Yeah, makes sense.
For the U.S. Census. And in 2023, Australian surfer Laura Enever caught a wave measuring more than 43 feet tall off the Hawaiian Islands. It earned her the Guinness World Records title for the largest wave surfed by a woman. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, right?
I need like a photo.
Yeah.
I gotta Google
I'm
it.
going to have to look that up too. That's incredible. I love watching those competitions sometimes. You see them doing that and just, it's nuts.
I
But
know.
I'm glad they do it.
I need to take a surfing lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. They do surfing in Maine in some places, just so you know.
Maybe
Old
with a
Orchard
wetsuit.
Beach, that kind of place.
I
you
know.
so.
Even like in these temps, I've
Yeah.
seen people doing it in January. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. For birthdays today, they include rocker Steve Perry from Journey, who is 76 years old. Actress Diane Lane turns 60. And celebrity chef Guy Fieri turns 57 years old today.
What would we do without diners, drive-ins, and dives?
Yeah, that's
I love
a good
that show.
one. Yeah, I don't usually like a lot of cooking shows, but that one's I like because I like that kind of food and
Yeah, me too.
like to see how they make different foods all
He's
around
just
the
a
world.
guy being a guy.
Yeah.
He's just a chill guy.
Eat some burgers and pork bellies and things
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
I do like him.
Yeah.
So
Okay, moving on now though. It's frigid. It's a good day for some comfort food.
go get a big bowl of warm chowder
Yeah,
or something like that.
I know.
That'll
We've been
warm
talking
your soul.
about chowder this morning.
Yeah.
I want some. Okay, here's Devin Biggs with that forecast.
And thank you very much, Craig and Emma. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. A cold start this morning with temperatures falling well below 0 for all of us. So definitely making sure we need to bundle up as we venture out this morning. Look at Clayton Lake, 24 below for the actual air temperature this morning. That's why they're under cold weather advisories until 10 a.m. this morning. A freezing spray advisory will also drop at 10 a.m. this morning as well along the coast. Meanwhile, quiet on land for the moment. We'll see a good amount of sunshine for today, although some more clouds will develop as we get towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern states tracking off to the east now. It will soon be out of here very soon along the southern coast. But meanwhile, for us, the rest of the Northeast rather quiet, a little bit of lake effect still developing, and that's pretty much about it. humid at this moment in time. So we'll be under a partly cloudy sky for us today. We'll clear out for a bit, but more clouds on the way, especially as we head towards Thursday morning. You might get a quick wind gust reaching up to 15 miles per hour today. That will calm down later on tonight, but then tomorrow, some gusts again could reach up to around 15 miles per hour at times. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a lot of sunshine, a few clouds for the afternoon with temperatures in the teens. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
Brr.
I know.
Yeah.
1 degree at 7 a.m.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
All right. Well, meanwhile, a club in Winterport is working to enhance its community, shape a brighter future for all the residents, and to show others the power of volunteerism at the same time.
Our Jody Hersey has more.
Even a small group of women can make a huge positive difference.
For 93 years, the GFWC Winterport Women's Club has been creating a positive impact in this small Waldo County town.
It's the largest international volunteer organization in the world.
There are 17 GFWC women's clubs in Maine. The local Winterport group completed 35 projects in 2024, funded by the group's 2 annual fundraisers, which are its perennial plant sale and yearly calendar sale.
Some people think we're a garden group, but we're not. But we do all the community plantings in town, at the post office, here at the library, cemetery pots, which really makes a difference in how our community looks.
Other projects the club has helped with include renovating the town's benches, donating to the Neighbors Covered Food Pantry, and assisting the New Hope Mid-Coast Domestic Violence Resource Center.
We always donate clothing to their annual clothing sale. We also donate goods for people who are sort of restarting and needing anything, furniture, kitchen supplies, you name it.
Lisa Hansen moved to Winterport just a few years ago and was welcomed into the Women's Club with open arms. She says it's an organization that's truly making a difference in the community.
We all just come together and we do so much. We are always doing something for the community. If there's a need, people reach out through the town, through whatever, and we make sure that need is filled.
In Winterport, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
And still to come here this morning, Jack Webb will have our sports updates.
Don't go away.
Driving the Nissan Rogue with Google built-in is like the perfect assist.
Hey Google, add basketball hoop to the shopping list.
See why it's been named a Consumer Guide Best Buy for 11 years in a row. Drive the award-winning Nissan Rogue today.
Now, get a low $289 per month lease on Rogue, one of 6 Nissan vehicles with starting MSRP under $30,000.
The competition will be bundle and save.
He said, we heard Bob's really beats the competition when you bundle and save.
Wow, what a bundle! What we mean is, when you bundle my treasure mattress with my Power Bob Elite base, you get a competition-stopping 18-year mattress warranty, underbed lighting, USB ports, and customizable positions, and you save $200.
So we don't need the ski suit.
No, but he looks great! See how much you can save when you dare to compare at Bob's Discount Furniture.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Fires, floods, burst pipes. Disasters happen, but the mess they leave behind doesn't have to last. For 40 years, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration has been there to help Mainers get back to the closest to normal as they can. When your property is at its worst, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration is at their best, and they have been for 4 decades. Put your trust in the Bouchard team. Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration. You keep the memories, we'll handle the rest.
These celebrities need to ignore the fear, or this course will break them.
Yes, Seth.
Special Forces only tonight on Fox.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thanks for staying with us. Down at Boston College this weekend, Cooper Flagg put on a show in Duke's closest game to Maine this season, and his dominant performance is something we've been getting used to all year since he suited up with Duke. Tyler Cruz has the story.
I thought for Coop, by the way, what a special turnout. We've been here a lot. The representation of Duke fans has always been great. This was, I think, the best I've ever seen it. I think a lot of it has to do with Maine. And obviously he backed it up with his play.
For the first time since last January, Newport's Cooper Flagg was back in New England, taking the court in front of hundreds of fans from Maine at Boston College on Saturday. Some even coming all the way from Aroostook.
I think all the way back to sometime last year, there was people talking about coming to this game. So for me, it was more of just a blessing to be able to come out and see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd and people I knew. It just gave me more confidence than anything.
Cooper's 28 points helped Duke to their 12th straight win, earning him his 7th Rookie of the Week award. And mind you, it's just the 11th week of the season.
The thing about Coop, you learn as it goes on, but also he just keeps getting better. And he started off the year great, but he's hit just a new level of what he's doing. I don't know how many guys I've coached, but he's as good as any of them in terms of wherever you put him, he's going to do something really good.
And he just turned 18 about a month ago.
He still should be in high school. So for him to adjust that quickly as an 18-year-old is as good as I've seen.
The Blue Devils are currently the second-ranked team in the nation. And based on betting odds, Flagg is the favorite to win the National Player of the Year award. But for him, he's just living out a dream.
Yeah, I think I have a pinch me moment almost every week at this point. This was my dream growing up my entire life, to be in the position that I'm in right now.
And he's inspiring hoopers from all over the state of Maine to go out and do the same.
And to a lot of kids from Maine that might be in a similar situation to what I was in growing up, it's easy to just not believe in yourself or just think you can't do it. But just want to keep proving that it doesn't really matter where you're from, that as long as you just stick to it and keep working, you can make anything happen.
From Chestnut Hill, I'm Tyler Cruz, ABC 7 Fox 22 Sports.
Another great Cooper moment with many more to come. We'll transition to the ice now, where the Maine men's hockey team dropped points this past weekend when they hosted UConn. Maine lost to the Huskies in regulation on Friday and salvaged an extra point in a shootout win on Saturday. Giving up third-period goals has been a problem for the Black Bears in their 5 losses and 3 ties this season, giving up the game-winning goal against Denver with seconds remaining a few weeks ago, along with 3 total UConn third-period goals last weekend. Some may assume it's an effort problem, but head coach Ben Barr says that is not the case.
We're not struggling as far as how hard we're playing or anything like that. In those moments where the game is on the line, there ends up being a little bit of a panic right now. It's happened a couple times, and a lot of times it's off face-off, so it's just like a 1 or 2 second situation. And unfortunately for us, it's cost us 3 goals at the end of games and 2 ties and a loss.
Luckily for the Black Bears, they have the weekend off, which gives them some extra time to self-scout and tune things up this week.
We got to get better. There's things we got to get better at, and we're trying to find ways to score more goals. So today we were working on trying to score some goals, and I think we just have to make sure that we're keeping our focus. It's not just hey, we're not playing this week. We'll go out and have fun. We'll have some fun, but hopefully we'll get a little bit better over the next couple of weeks.
Let's go back to the basketball court now. We're down in the high school scene. We'll start in Herman with a Class B boys clash. The Herman Hawks hosting the Trojans from MDI as we inch closer to tourney time. We pick it up in the second quarter. Hawks have it. Brody Hurd takes it in for the strong finish for 2 to tie the game at 18. Powerful finish. He even hit his hand on the glass there. Hawks again. Carter Wiggin drives, pumps, and leaves it for Mason Kinney, who brings it inside and gets the tough bucket to fall. Here's Wiggin again, getting in the paint, stopping and finding the wide open Bryce Edwards, who gives him the assist. Nice play there. Before the half, Trojans on the move. And look at this play from James Whittam. He puts on the moves, fades away, and banks home the jumper. But the Hawks were too much in this one, winning 64-46. We head up to Central High School now, where the Red Devils hosted the Dexter Tigers in front of a packed crowd. My first time in that gym, it was awesome. We pick it up in the second quarter. Tigers swinging it around until it finds Kaylee Dutton, who buries the long two. Then it's Dutton again. This time she's dishing out assists. She finds Callie Stone, who drains the triple to give Dexter a 13-point lead. Red Devils storming back now. Mary Allen hits nothing but net from beyond the arc. That was absolute butter from her. Shortly after, she finds her sister Annie Allen, who lays it in for two through the contact to cut into that Tiger lead. Towards the end of the half, Dexter moving the ball around, but it's Dutton who lays it in with the left hand, and Dexter wins this one by a score of 53-40. We'll finish with some big news down in Foxborough. The Mike Vrabel era has begun, and he's made his first big move. The NFL's Ian Rappaport broke the news Monday night that the Patriots are bringing back Josh McDaniels as their offensive coordinator. He served as the OC for 14 years under Bill Belichick and was a part of the staff for all 6 of the Super Bowls, calling plays for 3 of them. McDaniels was the OC for Mac Jones' Pro Bowl season before departing to be the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. However, that stint only lasted 25 games. Now he will play a major role in the development of Drake May. As Matthew McConaughey once said in a Lincoln ad, sometimes you have to go back to actually go forward. Hopefully it works out for the Pats. That's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Are your gutters weighed down by debris causing them to sag and overflow? I'm Tony Hafford with TC Hafford Basement Systems. Clogged gutters lead to costly repairs for your home, so skip the cleaning and stop the clogs with Gutter Shutter. Gutter Shutter, the world's best gutter, is a high-performance gutter with a lifetime no-clog guarantee. Stop the clutter, get Gutter Shutter. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems today for all things basementy.
You're way shorter than I thought you'd be. There's a shirtless selfie of me by the dumbbells. Here I am. I do air drumming. I'm a competitive air drummer.
Oh, wow.
By the way, I forgot my wallet at home, so sugar mama.
Will you excuse me?
The new Hyundai Tucson with advanced tech and safety features. There's joy in every journey. Lease an all-wheel drive Tucson SE for only $259 a month, or get 1.99% APR for 48 months. See your local Bangor Hyundai dealer.
Fire, water, storm damage, and even mold. We take care of you from cleanup to construction 24/7. When disaster strikes, tell your insurance company you want Penobscot Cleaning Services.
Get ideas and inspiration before your next building project even begins at Hammond Lumber Company. Create your vision when you explore Hammond's extensive in-store showroom displays, showcasing innovative trends from industry-leading suppliers and designers. Your Hammond sales rep will help you find the look you like, and Hammond's design team will help you make it your own. And Hammond delivers from 22 locations across Maine and New Hampshire. For your next building project, find your vision at Hammond Lumber Company.
Getting access to preventative health care is a challenge that many in Maine's rural communities face. But since launching the state's first mobile mammography unit, Northern Light Health has helped hundreds of Mainers.
Our Grace Blanchard shares more.
So this is our mobile mammography unit. We were able to acquire the unit through the help of Senator Susan Collins.
Last spring, the Northern Lights CA Dean and Mayo Hospital mammography team began taking their services on the road, traveling to some of the state's most rural areas to provide breast cancer screenings.
The earlier we detect breast cancer in someone, the quicker we can treat that.
It's recommended women start getting annual mammogram screenings once they turn 40. But according to hospital officials, Piscataquis County has the second lowest number of annual screenings in the state.
A lot of that is because people have transportation issues, they have family work commitments that make it hard for them to travel to the hospital. By having the mobile mammography unit, we're able to bring those screenings directly to them.
So this is our Hologic 3D unit. It is the same as at the hospitals.
Since launching the mobile unit, they have helped approximately 250 women across Piscataquis, Somerset, Waldo, and Penobscot counties gain access to this critical testing.
I think that we've gotten people to come in that really needed their screening mammogram, and I don't think that they would have gone further or seeked out that screening in a medical setting.
Until now, screenings have been appointment only. But with the mobile unit, they can now offer a walk-in option that they hope to see women across the entire state take advantage of.
So we're looking forward to this spring of being able to go even further north and further south with our unit.
In Corinth, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
That's great. The more tools, the better.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, the time now is 8:54, and it's time to get one final look at that forecast with meteorologist Devin Biggs.
All righty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Comfort Shoes can help you find the perfect fit for your new winter footwear. Visit us across from Irving and Newport. Here we go. Cold weather advisories up across the northern parts of the state until 10 a.m. this morning. Some cold temperatures being observed there. At the same time, a freezing spray advisory along the coast will be expiring at 10 a.m. this morning as well. Wave heights not too bad at around 2 to 3 feet according to the buoys, and only 5 feet farther out towards sea at this moment in time. Meanwhile, as we move forward this morning, we're pretty clear. Most of the clouds are over the ocean. We'll have a lot of sunshine to start things off. Some clouds will be developing as we head towards the afternoon period. Meanwhile, this highly advertised winter storm along the southern parts of the state tracking off towards the east now, and will soon be out of the southern states very soon. The rest of the country, a little bit of snow across parts of the Midwest this morning, but for us, again, the rest of the Northeast looking rather quiet. Just a little bit of lake effect snow developing in a few spots this morning. And again, here's the snow across parts of the Midwest. But for us today, we will be under a partly cloudy sky with those clouds clearing out of here later on tonight for a while. But then once we move forward, the clouds will be increasing again as we head towards Thursday morning. And then mostly cloudy throughout the day Thursday. A slight chance for snow for a few of us, but overall nothing too ridiculous moving forward. The clouds will start to break up as we head towards Thursday night and a parts of Friday morning, although they may linger for a few of us too early Friday morning. Otherwise, some gusty winds could reach up to about 15 miles per hour today, calming down later on tonight. And then once we head towards tomorrow, a few gusts up to 15 miles per hour cannot be ruled out again as we head towards your Thursday. Meanwhile, again, a cold start this morning. Got down to 24 below in Clayton Lake this morning. The rest of us getting close to 10 below at times, but overall temperatures will start to moderate for a few of us today with around 16 degrees for that high temperature, which is below the average high of 27. But we will start to moderate into the 20s and even 30s coming up over the next several days. Your forecast coming up: 16 degrees, partly cloudy, wind chills near 10 below, and the northwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts cannot be ruled out. For tonight, 1 degree, increasing clouds overnight with the wind overall looking nice and calm. And then moving ahead towards tomorrow, 24 degrees, mostly cloudy, a slight chance for snow, and a southwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. A few higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Let's check out your extended forecast brought to you by Comfort Shoes and More. Partly cloudy for your Friday with highs in the mid-20s. Mid-20s again for your Saturday under a mostly sunny sky, and snow showers for your Sunday with highs in the low 30s.
Come stop by Triple S Tack Shop, 315 Hamden Road, Carmel, for quality clothing and equestrian gear.
I'm Jim with Lowry & Associates. One of our clients was a man whose family contacted me after he was badly injured in a hit and run. As a former prosecutor, I was able to work with the police and the DA's office to identify the driver and prove that he was drunk when the accident happened. It was that work that allowed us to get him a $500,000 settlement. If you've been hurt by a drunk driver, call me. I'm your go-to guy.
Hurt by a drunk driver? Call the twos.
R&K Variety is more than just a convenience store. With delicious homemade food made fresh daily. We offer hearty meals that don't break the bank. Whether it be our delicious chicken pot pie, one of our many savory soups, or a pizza, you can't go wrong at R&K Variety. Looking for a drink after a long workday? R&K Variety is an agency liquor store with an impressive selection. R&K Variety, more than just a convenience store. We're your neighbor, chef, barista, and friend. Stop by today.
It's high school basketball season, and ABC 7 and Fox 22 are here to keep you up to date with your local scores and highlights during Friday Night Fast Break. Get out and support your hometown teams and look for our sports crew to get your own free Friday Night Fast Break t-shirt courtesy of
Central Equipment Company, Drinkwater's Cash Fuel, Modern Epoxy and Polishing, Old Town Redemption Center, Overhead Door Company of Bangor, and Steaks and Stuff.
A fan favorite Happy Meal returns to McDonald's. On Tuesday, the fast food chain announced it's partnering with Pokemon to bring back limited-time Pokemon-themed Happy Meals.
Yes!
Yes! I knew you'd be excited about that. Each meal features fan favorite characters on the box, including Charizard, Rayquaza, and Roaring Moon. Customers will also receive a pack of 4 trading cards as well as a poster and stickers. There are 15 different Pokemon trading cards that fans can collect. Customers who order the Happy Meals through the McDonald's app will earn an in-game boost at no cost. So, you know where to go.
So exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we're about out of time. If you missed anything, head to foxbangor.com.
Have a great day, everyone.
Today on 25 Words or Less. Last season he was a delightful surprise. This season he's just